All right, welcome to episode 96 of the Zenspath 4-Button Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Powers, and joining me once again, my other two troublemakers in this wide world of weirdness that we do, Steven.
Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
And Chris.
Hello.
His problem is we can't find him.
I'm right here.
Yeah, he's the hide-and-seek champion of this show, months going on. So... It's amazing. He just leaves his camera off, and we're just like, can't find him. That kind of, I don't know if that's cheating or not. The judges are still trying to rule, but right now he is still the champion of that game.
Ollie oxen free.
So we'll go ahead and jump into this fairly packed show. I know we've been trying to shorten them, but we got a lot to talk about today. But we'll go ahead and jump in first to what we've been playing or what we've been up to. So, Chris, since we can't see you, we can at least hear you. We'll start with you.
It's been a pretty light week. I did try getting into Double Dragon Gaiden. I didn't know it was a roguelike. I thought it was just a beat 'em up kind of thing, just your standard go from level 1 to level 4.
Right, left, right, punch, jump, and kick.
Exactly. But it turns out whenever you finish one level and beat one of the gangs, the rest of the gangs fortify their defenses. So you might have anything from an extra floor to another mid-boss to a completely new area to fight. So they jack up the difficulty with the more people you beat up. It's pretty cool, honestly.
What is this on?
I have it on Steam, but I'm sure it's on a bunch of stuff.
My Switch copy comes on Tuesday.
There you go.
Ooh, I may have to look it up for that, though. It's kind of tempting because that sounds like a game that would be perfect for a Steam Deck.
Yeah, I would recommend if you do get a chance to play it co-op, but unfortunately there's no online play, which seems like a real shame.
Really? Damn it.
For that kind of game.
I was going to ask that, too. It's disappointing. Oh, well. I can at least play with it here locally, but I was like, cool, maybe I can play with Chris. No, I can't.
No, I checked. Unfortunately, it's local.
There's got to be some version of Double Dragon we can play.
Oh, eventually, sure.
All right. Anything else going on, or has that been pretty much it?
Pretty light for me, so that's it.
Nice. All right. Steven, what you been up to?
Not a whole lot, but we've got started with Chris actually watching Twisted Metal TV series on Peacock.
I haven't seen that yet. How is it?
Because I kept hearing good things, especially that it was getting pretty funny. I don't want to say like any of these things try to always be 100% true to the video game, but to the material, they're at least doing things right. So you can point out characters, you're like, oh, those are those two characters. You can see their interpretation of it, and the game's not holding back. If it was like a video game, it would be rated mature because there's plenty of all that stuff in there.
Not crazy spoilers, but did they attempt to do Axel that you've seen so far? Okay.
Don't know yet. We basically just got to see John Doe, which is, Anthony Mackie.
Right.
You get to see she's been nicknamed Quiet. It's the girl from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Or Maribel from
Rosa.
Tonto.
Yeah.
And a mismatch of Samoa Joe as the body and Will Arnett as the voice of Sweet Tooth, and he was great. Both of them were great, I should say.
That is a terrifying combination.
But they give him but thankfully they even give him credit when you're on like the title card on Peacock. It even says right there Samoa Joe. So I was like, it's a big thing to give just the body person who's not the voice the credit in there. So I was like, oh, credit where credit's due.
Yeah, because that was the trouble. What was it? David, I can't remember his last name. That's why this doesn't help. Who played Vader?
David Prowse.
Thank you. I was like, I remember the David and then just blanked on the name all of a sudden.
The
Chris
other
coming
one,
in clutch with names.
The other one, it's good to preface it with a backstory, but if you've ever been on TikTok and you're scrolling through all the different TikToks, eventually you see these games that look really interesting, but they're not that. When you actually download the game, it's some loot-based RPG or strategy game, and it's not
So just general mobile gaming.
How many soldiers you can collect or anything. Not the fun stuff. So one company partnered up with the publisher D3 and basically created so far a handful of them that play almost like a WarioWare style and UI.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the actual title is called "Yeah, You Want Those Games, Right?" So here you go. Let's see you clear them. That's the official title of the game.
Okay, that explains a lot. I was like, what kind of note is that he wrote?
It's for all the systems and PC, and it is extremely simple. You're just playing ones that you're like, oh, I remember that one. One, you're getting all the cars out of a parking lot. The other one, you're collecting gold to build stairways. Another one, you're actually doing that thing where you slit out the little pins to see if you can get the gold and not kill the guy.
Oh my god!
But I thought it was very well done, and it was addictive. Trying to play through them all now too.
You remember how much it was?
Like $10.
Oh, that's not bad. Especially even if it's just an hour or two of just laughing, playing stupid games. That'd be worth it.
But I played it for like 3-4 hours. So.
That's not bad.
I should have been playing Street Fighter.
We need to get back and play more Street Fighter 6. I have been very bad about that because for me, my life has been Pikmin 4 recently. I have been playing it enough that I finally have, I think, all the types of Pikmin you can get. So I have the red, the blue, and the yellow. And then, of course, I had to find the purple. I got the rock Pikmin, the ice Pikmin, the flying pink Pikmin, and the poison white Pikmin. So that's 8 Pikmin so far. I think that's all they have, but I've been enjoying the way they kind of put a restriction on you for how many and what types you can have, but not in a way that it kind of feels broken. It actually helps you kind of plan like, all right, I'm going to go out today. I'm going to go after the water area. So I'm going to take mostly blue Pikmin, and I'll take a couple, purple ones with me to, so they can brute force some things if I need it or something. And you kind of work your strategy around for what you're doing to fill out. And I've only unlocked 3 areas, and I just 100%ed one of them right before I sat down for the show.
Nice.
I was just sitting there kind of playing it. I've been that productivity in the Switch is not my good side. So I've been really enjoying it. I think I'm gonna play it. The Dandori fights were kind of annoying at first, but they've kind of grown on me. It's a nice little challenge because they don't require you to like perfectly do every one of them so far. I know it's going to ramp up as you go, as games tend to do, but they seem reasonable. Like if you just get to this bare minimum, we'll go ahead and pass and let you move on, but you can come back and try and challenge them more if you want to. I haven't tried it in multiplayer yet, but it seems like that might be something fun, but don't really have anyone here in my house that plays Pikmin this much. So I don't know who's going to challenge me. Beyond that, I have been playing Breath of Fire on the Super Nintendo, which for me is a weird one because I'm not a big RPG guy, but I was invited, hopefully, for next week to be on the Super RPG Friends to join them for their Breath of Fire play, which I even asked them. I was like, you sure you guys want me on there? Like, I don't play that many RPGs. Like, yeah, we'll get you caught up. Like, okay, why not?
So how's that going to work? Are you going to play as well, or are you going to spectate and, just...
They have one guy that's playing, and then everybody else is there kind of spectating, and we're all around the screen talking to each other. So it's still going to be a fun conversation. And I think they'll have people read certain lines and do, make jokes and so forth. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to have some fun with it. Why not? Our other host has been on here a lot. Rachel has partnered with them for a lot of shows because Rachel is really big into RPGs. So, it makes sense they'd have her on there more. I would pick on her about it. Like, oh, I see they got you again, but hey, I can't use that excuse anymore. They asked me to be on there. So we'll see how that goes.
You need to ask them if they've seen Chun-Li yet.
Oh God.
Oh, the nightmare.
No, not the mod. In Breath of Fire.
Oh. Okay. You don't ask, have you seen Chun-Li yet on the day that we get news that a tournament fighter
I'm sorry, it wasn't in our news.
It is now.
I thought it was. All right.
I was debating, but I mean, yeah, we can get it in there somewhere, I'm sure. Just like they got the nude mod in there. Yeah. So we've started off with a bit of a funny. We'll go ahead and jump into our news with a bit of bad news or sad news for a lot of people to start off with. Paul Reubens, aka Pee Wee Herman, has passed away at age 70 while quietly fighting cancer for the past few years, which nobody was aware of. He did not tell anybody that he had cancer. He passed away on July 30th, and he actually wrote a note to his fans right before he died that said, "Please accept my apology for not going public with what I've been facing the last 6 years. I have always felt a huge amount of love and respect from my friends, fans, and supporters. I have loved you all so much and enjoyed making art for you." So, yeah, that one hit me because, cancer for one thing, I've lost too many family members to it and other things. But then also, like, I grew up watching Pee Wee Herman. I remember watching Pee Wee Herman's Funhouse. I remember watching Pee Wee's Big Adventure and having him pop up in different places. And then Paul Reubens himself showing up in other stuff. What was the character from Mystery Men? The Sphincter.
Oh, the spleen.
The spleen. Thank you. I knew it was something like that. Oh, I said whatever. I'd made a note of it somewhere too, and I'm like, where did that go? I guess I deleted it on accident. But yeah, he was the spleen, which I thought he played that really well. Of course, he kept showing up in the Batman movies for different things, playing Cobblepot's dad, not once but twice, because he did it in Gotham as well as Batman Returns.
Oh. He's actually one of the droids in the Galaxy's Edge too, because Disney Parks did a tribute to him as well.
He has a lot of voice work that he's done too over the years, but he's managed to just kind of pop up in everything. I forgot he was a vampire in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the original movie, with that long overblown death where he got stabbed in the chest and he like just plays it out for a while, like coming back and crawling off and going,
Last time I saw him too was in that Johnny Depp movie. I think it was Blow.
I haven't actually seen that one.
Where he was like one of the dealers, and I was just like, oh. And he really wanted that role because they wanted to show like he could, not just play like one type of character, or he could be like off the wall scary instead of like silly.
Yeah, I mean, the guy was everywhere with the stuff he was doing. So
this reminds me of like David Bowie and what's his name, Alan Rickman, where it's just out of the blue, hey, I've been keeping this from you because I didn't want anybody to worry.
Mm-hmm.
And those always hurt because then you're like, everything's fine, everything's not fine.
Yeah, which then makes you wonder if something's going on, like, oh, are they just not saying something,
Yeah, so when you don't see somebody for a while, you're like, are they okay?
Well, it could be that, or they just, sometimes celebrities just mind their own business.
Yeah.
And you don't hear about it until after they've either died of, living a full life in their 90s,
mm-hmm.
or they croak from some unfortunate malady. Sometimes it's not our business.
It's not owed to any of us either. He had, there's no one's right to expect that they have to say anything. People would like to hear about people that they look up to or watch for a long time, but it's, they don't owe us anything. Yeah, it's their lives.
If I didn't follow certain circles, I wouldn't have known recently that the voice of Space Ghost isn't doing very well either. So
I honestly thought he'd already passed away. Okay.
Last I read, he was bedridden with a disease that was hitting him, and his daughter or son was speaking up for him on the fan pages. But I don't know if he passed yet.
Well, hopefully he's doing better, but I guess either way, that's not going to go. All right. So yeah, that's the sad news from today. For the rest of it, we actually just have normal gaming and pop culture news, but I wanted to start off with that one to go ahead and get that out of the way with everything that happened. But Pee Wee Herman will be missed. So, all right. Our next little bit of news here is Reddit kind of screwing with AI in a really hilarious way. Have you guys heard of the boss fight of Glorbo? He was apparently found in Destiny 2 and then later popping up in World of Warcraft. But this was actually a ploy by Reddit users to mess with those AI, like websites that use AI text generators that will just go scrape Reddit forums and write articles for their site and publish them. So they made threads talking about this new boss, Glorbo, and how to find the secret boss and everything. And they kept all the conversations as serious as they could. Nobody made it clear that this was faked or why they did it. And then they could weed out whatever sites popped up with news stories about that because they had to have been written by AI. Because places that actually wrote this stuff, like, IGN and some of those have been laughing about it, thinking this is absolutely hilarious. But other places have been kind of bit in the ass and pulled out for it. Rightfully so. You can't just have AI writing all your stuff. There's actual writers and people that report on this stuff that you're basically just throwing away to try and generate money for free. So,
well, there's a lot of people that are looking into it for that exact get rich quick reason. And I did, after Steve told me about the whole Glorbo thing, I went back to the web page where that article was originated, and of course it's gone.
Oh yeah, no, they pulled it quick.
Yeah. Or I think before they pulled it, I think they added a little update saying, "Oh, it's a parody, it's satire. Ha ha, we get it, guys. This was totally, we did it on purpose." And then they left.
So, topical to being trolled with Evo in full force this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
There was a little bit of trolling between the popular YouTuber Maximilian Dude and the voice actor who does Luke in Street Fighter 6. And they were like, what does he say when he's doing his level 3 super? And Maximilian Dude made the joke that he's saying, you're an ugly guy who's going to Memphis. It's supposed to be, I'm not the guy who you want to mess with, but he said going to Memphis. And then he had the voice actor saying, yeah, that's what I said.
Oh, boy.
Like, that's exactly what I said. And then he did the voice again for everybody. So now whenever he does a level 3 super in Evo, everybody's saying, oh, he's going to Memphis.
I love what a good sport that voice actor is. Like, even just how happy he was doing the fake Hadouken thing. Like, he is really, not only that, he's been lending his voice to any kind of TikTok or YouTube animation featuring Luke that he finds amusing enough. And you know what? That's a good sport right there.
Yeah, I just watched a video where he was with the voice of Marissa and she was reading thirst tweets. But they also played through her storyline and she read all the text. So I was like, it's awesome that they're having fun. But I just thought it was funny that they just took what is that person saying? And everybody believed it for a good amount of time. And he had to admit, like, hey, I trolled you guys. It's not what he, it's not what he actually says.
God.
But everybody's just running with it because they love it now. You're going to Memphis.
Oh,
that's lovely.
My God.
Well, like I said, the whole Glorbo thing started off, they were doing it for Destiny 2 first, and then later it spread and went to World of Warcraft as a secret raid. Once again, more articles popped up from that as well. And it's like, I love that people are finding ways to screw with AI. It's like, if they're going to try and use it, we're going to find any way we can to break it. I know with the art stuff, they found ways to kind of encrypt pictures, I guess, in a way where they can't read them properly, or they start feeding on itself and getting worse and worse. So yeah, hopefully anytime we can weed out the worded ones, that could be hilarious.
Well, at least people are having fun with it.
Yes. So from the ultra rare of Glorbo, so rare it doesn't actually exist, to the actual rare, one of a kind Magic the Gathering One Ring card has been found. It was found earlier this year and then has been sold, ironically, to Post Malone for a whopping $2.6 million. And I thought that was such a weird headline at first until I looked into it more. Post Malone's like legit a Magic the Gathering fan. He hosts tournaments. He talks with fans about it while I'm like opening packs. Plays a lot of this stuff. He's paid $800,000 which is a ridiculous amount of money because that's way more than even my house. Way more. Like, good. For a signed Black Lotus, black and white artist proof card and other stuff. So, man, it's not the headline I expected for the one ring to go to Post Malone.
Yeah, I was scrolling through TikTok and I saw the guy's actual account come up.
Mm-hmm.
He's shaking and he had it just in a simple plastic sleeve before he got it graded, and he was just like, "You'll never guess what I got." And once Magic the Gathering then commented on his TikTok, I was just like, "All right, it's gaining credence now." And then as the day went by, then they showed the footage of him with Post Malone. So his name was Brooke Trafton, who sold it. And if you want more of that storybook ending, he got to meet Post Malone. He had a beer with him, and then he sold it the day before his 37th birthday.
I mean, that's a $2.6 million. That is life-changing amounts of money right there for somebody.
Oh, absolutely.
He plays his cards right. He's set. Like, he's good. You know, he could put away a lot of that and kind of live off of it. But all for finding a card. That's so trippy. I mean, I'm happy for him. That's great. But hopefully it does him well. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like, it's great having that one card, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff in my game collection or anything I'd give up for that much money. I'd be like,
I'm just glad he sold it to a fan.
Yes. I know he was
that too, yeah.
Yeah, he was getting millions of dollars in offers from different people that just wanted it for their collection. But looking into this, like I said,
he tried to call a bank to get it in a safe deposit box within an hour. He was trying all the banks he could, and then he basically lawyered up the next day to make sure he was safe.
Smart. I mean, the guy's doing everything right, which is nice to see, because you hear this is the equivalent of somebody winning the lottery, and you hear so many ways that people completely screw that up, or they just go nuts and blow the money and go wild with it. This guy's looks like he's trying to do everything by the book to keep himself safe and do this. So I'm hopeful this will be a good windfall for him, and he's just happy with it. So good for him. All right. So moving on, I talked about this before online, but it kind of came up. We're going to go into the first part of the story and then the update that came out with it. But Hasbro has announced that they want the return of their Activision published Transformers games from the Xbox 360 and PS3 era to return, but they claimed Activision lost them. While they were talking to TFW 2005, which is one of the bigger Transformers groups, Hasbro said, quote, "Sadly, apparently Activision's not sure what hard drives they're on in their building. When a company eats a company that eats a company, things get lost, and that's very frustrating." They stated they wanted to add these titles to Game Pass if they are found, saying we want those games back up for people to have a chance to play. Also, that they'd be easy choices to add to Game Pass. Excuse me. So, you remember when we were talking about the Xbox merger, that's one of the things I wanted was those Activision Transformers games to come back as backwards compatibility. If they come to Game Pass, that'll be true. And I was like, that'll be great. But then I kind of laughed at the irony that Activision lost them, apparently. This was also possibly connected to some of the newer lines of Transformers toys that feature updated figures from the 2010 War for Cybertron and 2012 Fall of Cybertron titles, where they made what's called the Gamer Editions. There was, or Game Edition, there was 3 of them: Optimus, Bumblebee, and I can't remember, one of them was kind of a scout figure. They apparently were asking for the 3D models, and they only got concept art from Activision. They're like, we can't make it from this. So they had to go in, run the game on their own computers, getting a copy that still works, and then go into the code and rip the model out from there so they could model this one more accurately, which I have the original line of toys it was based from and this new one, which is way bigger and more detailed. So that was the story for most of the week. But then just the other day, Activision actually fired back at the accusations with their CCO and EVP of Corporate Affairs, Lulu Cheng Maserveri, I apologize if I mispronounced that, tweeted out, quote, "These headlines are wrong. We have the code. It's not lost and never was."
Oh.
Hasbro then responded in a statement saying, quote, "To clarify, comments that suggest Transformers games have been lost were made in error. We apologize to Activision and regret any confusion as they've been great partners, and we look forward to future opportunities to work together." So if they have the damn games, why are they not out yet? I want to play them again.
Well, I mean, this could be
not done.
Yeah, this could be one of two things. One, they're covering their asses and saying, "Oh, we know which drawer they're in. We swear," or they really do know where it is, but they don't want to release the games, which sometimes that happens too, especially with ones that are, have more than one license involved. I think Devastation was made by Platinum, if I remember correctly.
It was. But I know that for the two, the main two, there was technically three that were tied together, but we don't really count that third one because they kind of bastardized it and tried to merge it with the movies and ruined a really good thing, guys. But Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron were made by High Moon Studios, which Activision bought out. And a lot of them were just kind of merged in to do Call of Duty work. So a lot of the people are still there, or at least company-wise. And they were the publishers and developers. So the license, as long as Hasbro signs off on allowing it, seems pretty clear that those games should be allowed on there. Now,
seems like a win-win, especially with the movies and everything, though.
Right. I think that might have been what they were trying to do. Devastation, while yes, Platinum made that, it's still fully backwards compatible and still available and on Xbox One. So that would just be them working out the deal to get it on Game Pass. But you can play it right now on a Series X, no problem.
And it's
you
really
just put
bad.
the disc in and you're good to go. What?
And it's really bad.
You shut your mouth. It's not a bad beat 'em up. It looks phenomenal. My biggest complaint of that game is they could have had more like skins or characters to play as. Presentation wise, yeah, it's a beat 'em up that gets repetitive, but damn does it look good. And that fight with Devastator is fantastic.
I did appreciate that fans loved War for Cybertron because they said the multiplayer plays a lot like Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, the nice thing with War for Cybertron and Fall for Cybertron, it had a horde mode that was one of my favorites that you would get resources every round where you can either pay to get better weapons or you can pool your amount. So like if somebody is short, like say they stayed back and protected the rear and didn't get that many kills, but they tried to protect stuff coming from behind, you can actually give them currency in the game to help buff them or get them something if they need it. Or you can all pool your resources to unlock certain doors, which will open up new parts of the map for that round. You also get new enemies coming in, but you can kind of balance it out. I thought it was a really creative take on that. And I've said before, Horde mode is one of my favorite multiplayer modes because it's people having to work together. You don't have that, the crap of people, PvP, where someone can get nasty and just keep fighting with each other and all that. You have to work together against a common enemy. And it just seems more fun. And one of the few ways I'll actually just play with random people online because it's, unless you're intending to screw yourself, you're going to help. Talking bad about Transformers games, man. Come on.
Some of them you can be a fan of something and I
know some of them are horrible.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Transformers didn't have a good history.
It's a very mixed one. Yeah, I could go down that entire list too. I know I'm the big Transformers nerd here. It's kind of my thing. So, did you guys ever play any of War for Cybertron or Fall for Cybertron back in the day on 360 or PS3 or PC even? It came out for.
I might own them, but I haven't for a long time.
Good stories, surprisingly weird DS ports that they did also that were kind of like side stories. It was the only time we ever got Hot Rod in one of those was on the DS Autobots version. So yeah, that's kind of a back and forth between Activision and Hasbro that I'm wondering how many more times this is going to happen by the time this merger goes through. Because yeah, right now Activision's making, get your drink ready, a lot of Call of Duty, I'm going to stick with that until that merger goes through.
Oh boy.
But they're making, I think Microsoft is going to kind of release some of those developers to go back and make stuff that they made prior. And they're probably going to be rifling through whatever drives they have to be like, what games do we have available that we now can control the license? We can release them on these and make them backwards compatible and just kind of add to our numbers. So I'm hoping we see a pretty good increase after that point, but who knows?
Speaking of
Call of Duty,
just a quick little segue. They just announced that their cheating system, they can now flag a person as a cheater in real time and show you in the kill feed that that person cheated and they've been booted. Not just booted, everybody will be told that person cheated.
Oh, that's great.
So real time banning. I was like, whoa.
I'm okay with that as long as it doesn't fake out and tell somebody from an issue. But if you're cheating, yeah, you deserve to get your butt kicked out. So I'm okay with that. All right. So speaking of the other Xbox stuff, Microsoft has finally started releasing repair parts for their controllers through their online store. This includes sticks, covers, buttons, things like that. So they're allowing people to repair their Xbox controllers themselves instead of sending them back in or having to replace them every time, which I'm good for. I like the ability for someone to be able to repair their own things. You know, if you don't have the technical skill, it's one thing, but if you don't even have the option, like iPhones and stuff, which is a complete pain where they've made it harder and harder to try and fix things, repairability is good. I don't know, does this actually qualify for either of you? Do you guys ever do electronics repairs?
Well, when I used to work for a game store, I would do that all the time when I was putting a system bundle together or wanting to refurbish controllers to sell them. But I always had to buy the third-party parts from like different distributors that had parts and controllers and stuff. So they were good, but it always is like, well, there's just third-party parts in here. But I got used to like how they open and everything like that, because especially with 360 and DualShock 3s, those analogs were always the first to go. They got stuck on one side and never wanted to move ever again.
Yeah.
And those went through a lot.
Because now we've got more of the drift issue for sticks as well, which that happened a lot on PS4 and Xbox One, and of course the Switch a lot. But I still don't get why they kept using the same damn sticks for the Series X and the PS5. You guys could have done anything different.
To read how far back it's gone, that even N64 with their drifts and everything like that, that it's since the birth of analog sticks, they're just like, we don't need to change it. It's not broken.
Well, N64
this way.
N64 didn't really have an issue with drift because it would actually self-center and correct itself. Its problem was the wear and tear would build up down there, and that would cause false readings, which is why you either have to clean them or replace the stick. The proof that they can actually still work is if you go back to a Dreamcast controller, those are using the magnetic setup, and most Dreamcast controllers still work. I've never had to replace the stick on one of those. Like, I've worn down the top of it, but the stick itself still worked as it should. So it can be done. They just aren't doing it, probably because of a cost saving measure. If it's a couple cents cheaper in the long run for all those controllers, it might just be cheaper to just let them do it. Most people will just buy another controller and not even worry about it. So, All right. So the other part of Xbox news that we've got going right now is that Xbox is banning users for running emulators in retail mode since they removed the option a few months back. Now, we'd reported about this before, that you could go into developer mode and be able to, I think it's like a $20 fee you would pay to unlock it on Xbox One, Series X, or S. And you could run emulators and other programs from there. A little involved to do, but it worked really well. I actually did it on mine as well. My Series S in my room has all kinds of emulators on it for fun. But people found a way to do it in retail mode, which started making it look a little bit more official, which Microsoft was like, okay, we were giving you the playground and we were letting you do that, but now you're making it look like we're officially supporting it, which could lead to strained issues with, other companies or things going on. So they decided to have that part removed. People hated it, but it happened. Then there was another group that had found a workaround to make it work again, but they were doing it where they weren't telling Microsoft how they did it. And I'm not sure how Microsoft couldn't tell how they did it. But you had to be a member of their Discord and pay a monthly fee in order to gain the access they had to let you do this. So somebody else was making money off of it while trying to hide it from Microsoft and changing things up every time they get found out. So Microsoft just said, to hell with it. If you're caught doing it, we're just banning you outright, which is extreme, but I kind of get it if they've been like trying to be nice about this. What's y'all's thoughts on this?
That sounds like a 3 strikes and you're out kind of thing, especially if someone was making money off of it.
Seems like they got off easy.
Yeah, no kidding. I don't even know if they've even gone after those people yet, if they have any way to go after them. It's just the people that are using it for retail mode are the ones being banned. So
if this was Nintendo, they'd be like that guy who, unfortunately, his last name is Bowser, who's paying retributions or reparations to Nintendo for the rest of his life.
Yep. And speaking of Nintendo, the other part of emulation news that we had, the Dolphin emulator, and this was a while back, we were kind of behind on this one. The Dolphin emulator is no longer coming to Steam. Not because of what you think. This was actually after Valve themselves reached out to Nintendo about the emulator, wanting to avoid any possible issues. So Nintendo wasn't saying anything about it because the emulator was legal as long as they didn't have the Wii unlock codes in the setup, which they did apparently. But even by removing that, they could have put it through, but Valve didn't want to chance it. So they reached out to Nintendo, and that kind of made it back and forth. And they made the decision just to not put it on Steam directly. That doesn't stop you from running it on something like Steam Deck or on there. You can add it in as a third-party app. There's other ways to load it. You just won't be able to go onto the store and just download it directly like you would any game.
Yeah, and that's weird because even the official statement from the guys over at Dolphin were saying even the Wii key is still everywhere. Like, you still get it whenever you want. It's not in the same boat per se as Dolphin, so they're like, "Cool, how about it?"
Yeah, it was kind of a weird thing. Of course, everybody went after Nintendo on that, like, oh, they're going after the emulators. Nintendo didn't give a shit. Like, they weren't doing anything about it because as long as they stayed within the legal lane, there wasn't really anything they could do. They could grumble and shake their fist and, old man yell at the cloud all they want. Nothing's going to happen. They could have released it, but Valve got cold feet, not wanting to mess with, once again, with other publishers or developers, even if they don't make games for their setup, whatever their relationship is, because Valve does make things for Nintendo and vice versa. We got the Portal 1 and 2 collection on there and some other games. So, I mean, it's a bummer it won't be directly on there. I thought it'd be nice to have just a directly running Dolphin on my Steam Deck, but I also just have Dolphin already on there and it runs
whatever will we do.
Oh, yeah. Oh no. Because this would have made, Nintendo would have lost so much money. Oh wait, no. Actually, they've made an ungodly amount of money this year, which we're going to talk about next. So Nintendo announced their first quarter financial results with a few key highlights here. The Legends of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom has already sold over 18.51 million copies. Well, and at that point, they'd only been out for a month and a half. That is ridiculous numbers. This places Tears of the Kingdom as the second highest selling Zelda game of all time. And that is of every version of every game combined. So we're talking about like, the multiple re-releases of Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Majora's Mask, Wind Waker, all of those. They had a really good breakdown that I saw that had a color-coded bar for what was sold of each version of the game for each system combined. And the only one that was skyrocketing above all of them was Breath of the Wild, which had this little blue bit at the bottom for the Wii U release and this massive green bar for the Switch.
They even said there was a good portion that never played Breath of the Wild and went straight to Tears of the Kingdom, too.
Yeah, which I could see that. I mean, they're different enough games. You could play them in either order. I think it would work. So, and there's a good chance Tears of the Kingdom is going to overtake Breath of the Wild in the long run. I mean, because that's the lifetime of Breath of the Wild for the last 7 years. This is already a good chunk up that in second place after a month and a half. That is a ludicrous speed of sales.
Well, there's just so much more to do with that game, you know? As
Yes.
soon as building crap became a TikTok thing, everybody wanted to
So
play.
much to see, so much to do. What's wrong with taking the back streets?
I think what hit off with like TikTok and stuff first was torturing the Koroks.
Okay, well, that too.
I think that was the first thing. Everyone's like, "Oh, you can do all
and
this
then,
stuff."
And then seeing them make torture chambers, Metal Gear Rex, a cruise liner,
Yep,
an X-wing. Yeah,
a giant robot with a penis. I knew that was going to happen.
Metal Gear Rex
with a penis. So, I mean, yeah, that game has headed off. My friend is playing through it right now. He's like, I've stopped doing everything else. I just keep playing Tears of the Kingdom. Like, I need to do these other things, but there's just one more place I can go look at. Oh, what's that over there? And hours pass. And of course, he asked me a question, so I had to pop up onto my copy again to go look something up. And it was like 4 hours later, and I'd gotten in and realized, oh, I didn't talk to this guy yet. Oh, he's got missions for me to go hunt down these creatures. I could do that. And then I go hunt them down, and I come back, and I'm like, I was supposed to be playing Pikmin. I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom again. The game's just addictive. Continuing on from there, Super Mario Brothers movie, unsurprisingly, was watched by over 168.1 million people and brought in $1.349 billion, as well as leading to an increase across the board of the sales of Mario games, which also includes Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which, mind you, was almost a launch title for the Switch. It was within the first couple of months, I believe. It was already released on the Wii U prior to that and was the highest selling of all time for Mario Kart. Sold another 1.67 million during just the first quarter of this year. So just that first quarter outsold most other games.
And the movie just is now streaming on Peacock as of yesterday.
Yep.
So let the games begin again.
Yeah, lots of Mario. Enjoy, people. I like the movie, honestly. Like, I think we've all seen it by this point, obviously. I thought they did a good job. I'm looking forward to future ones, but with this much money, would you guys even be surprised if almost every other Nintendo license starts getting movies or shorts or something?
From what I can understand, there's more than likely a second Mario Brothers movie, a Doi.
They've already said that's happening. I knew that
but
was.
It looks like there's still like a battle in process to get a Zelda one made. So,
do you think it didn't have to be the same group, but do you think Nintendo working with anybody could get a Metroid one working correctly without it being some weird comedy or something? Like, do you think they'd be willing to make it a more mature or serious animated type movie?
I'm going to do the Monkey's Paw.
Oh God, are we getting Captain N?
No, I'm going to do the Monkey's Paw because I'm not a fan of the studio, but I think they would do well with it. I think that it should forego being a movie and go straight to being an anime and give it to Studio Trigger.
Okay.
But that's me, because Nintendo's dabbled in anime in the past. You can find old Japanese movies with Mario and Peach in them. Brilliantly done. There's one that was just restored and posted on YouTube for people to enjoy.
Nice.
And I just think that would be more logical for them because of the types of creatures. And instead of trying to do I do CGI, do I do practical? I think with the way those things work, especially if you try to do something like a Metroid Fusion, where it's like an ever-evolving thing, I really think they should give it to an anime studio to take a big crack at it. Kind of like how Castlevania is thriving now as an anime.
Yes, I'm looking forward to the new series that was announced. Okay. Chris, you got any thoughts on that one?
I was actually surprised at how well Illumination dealt with it. There are rumors that they're going to tackle Zelda next. I'm not sure how that's going to go. Studio Trigger would be interesting.
I can't wait to bomb some Dodongos.
With Mario, it all depends on if there's going to be continuity. One big thing about Nintendo properties is that they have to keep a certain amount of lore intact. And now they've developed lore with Illumination that wasn't necessarily there before. You know, as soon as they basically said, oh, Mario and Peach are not officially from where they are, that's new lore. So we'll see where it goes.
It's kind of going back to the original Mario movie lore in a way, with them showing it from other places. Though I'm sorry. That was Daisy in that one, not Peach. And she was from that area. It was weird.
Exactly. So now that people like this version, I wonder if they'll bother with any reboots or different versions, because this worked out really well. So we will see.
I don't know if you guys saw, though, that there is a growing number of people that when they were selecting music for the movie itself, that there's a I can look up the exact name of the song, but basically one of the tunes from Super Mario RPG was supposed to be at the end when they're opening the door and going out into the world. Everything's okay, sunny. It's the end of the movie.
Right.
But Nintendo thought it would be out of place with the rest of the music. But when people overlaced the song with that scene, it fit like 100% perfect. Not like, no, I had to slow it down or anything. It was too perfect to overlap.
Almost like it was animated to that originally, and they probably had to rematch a different song with the same rhythm.
The way the crescendos happened in the song, everything, they were like, I think there was supposed to be that Super Mario RPG song in there, and they just said it didn't fit the tempo of the actual scene. Like, it didn't match the rest of the music, which is weird music choices anyway on some of them, but
yeah. I have to watch that. Let me send me that when you get a chance.
Yeah.
For sure. Speaking of Metroid, though, we do have Metroid Dread surpassed 3 million sold. So that is good to hear. Just because, the Metroid series doesn't always sell that much as everybody claims to love it. They don't buy it.
Especially if they have dev kits for the next system.
Right. So for every me or my, youngest son or some of my other friends like Caleb, who are absolutely obsessed with Metroid and will buy every single thing of it we can get our hands on, not everybody else pays money for this one. So we'll take what we can get. They had a 13.9% increase in hardware sales compared to last year, with 3.9 million systems sold this quarter alone. Much thanks to Tears of the Kingdom for that one. They had a 50% increase in net sales, about $3.2 billion, with a profit increase of 80%. So a profit of about $1.3 billion after operating and everything else is taken out of that. So
when I was looking over the sales numbers, somebody pointed out there's an intriguing dynamic on the Switch hardware sales in quarter one to show you which location is really responding to these games. So the U.S. had a small decrease, about 7% on hardware sales compared to last quarter one last year. Europe had a negative 15, so you can tell Europe's kind of okay. Where's the next system?
Right,
but
they're
Japan's
cooling off.
just like, we're good. Plus 67%. So you look at even the top 10 titles. I think Final Fantasy 16 somehow got in number 5, and then the rest are all Switch titles.
That's ridiculous. I forgot to put the numbers in here, but I think they have to sell like 25 million more systems, I believe was the amount I looked at, and they will overtake the PlayStation 2 as the highest selling console of all time. And
I think they'll finally beat they're close to beating the DS finally too.
Yeah. Because it was the PS2 is the highest. The DS is like right below that. It's a very small amount of difference. And then, so I think once they pass the DS, that momentum will just carry on, and they could take the top point of the PS2. I think a lot of that's going to determine by possible new hardware coming out, if that's going to count under the Switch or not, which leads us into our last main story of this. Sources, and we're going to air quote the shit out of that, sources, are reporting through VGC that the successor to the Nintendo Switch will be released in the later half of 2024. Now, the only reason I was looking into this for rumors is, they were talking about the fact where they got their sources from. They kind of listened to a little bit more. So there's a little bit more weight to it. Some of it sounds a little bit more believable, and it's still vague enough, but I think we're getting to that point in the lifetime that a new system's got to be coming up soon. So I thought it was something we could comfortably talk about. Their report states that it will launch with an LCD instead of an OLED to save on costs, and then it will accept physical game cartridges or games via cartridges again, but no word on if it will be physically or digitally backwards compatible. So my two thoughts on that, I'm okay with the LCD issue. The Steam Deck is doing just fine with an LCD. And honestly, my Switch was just fine with an LCD. I like my OLED. I would really like a version of whatever comes next to have an OLED if I can, but I guarantee, that's a premium thing. And if they don't have backwards compatibility, that'll be the dumbest thing they've ever done. Yep. So we're going to go ahead and take this and tie into what I had for the big question this week to finish off for this one. With rumors renewed around the Switch successor for next year, what features do we think must be there? What features can we do without? And for fun, what are a few games you would love to see it launch with? Who wants to dive into this one first?
I'll go first.
Go for it, Steven.
Because I'm always looking to who's just trying to jump on the bandwagon, who's trying to take a serious look at it.
Yeah.
So I feel that when you have a base of over 100 million systems,
mm-hmm.
and you have this overwhelming and sometimes welcome, because it hasn't been around for a long time for them, support from other companies, especially getting games that are not sports games from EA, like It Takes Two, and just getting surprisingly like Doom and some other titles, is that you see this with the next system like being announced, and for me, I feel that one, it needs to be backwards compatibility. It's like you can't do that. You can't take the other end now that the other two companies have kind of also waved the white flag. Even Sony saying like, we'll have some of our old games. So PS4 worked with it,
mm-hmm.
and then they started bringing back their PSP and PS1 games back through their service, kind of emulating a little bit of the Switch Online, saying like, hey, look, our old games are still here. But and I was saying it to somebody else, that Chris actually, and I said, I think the way they should do this is, I believe, because Nintendo loves these things, is they should have an adapter. And what I mean by that is, no, bear with me, it'll come in every box. It'll come in every box, but because of the way those cartridges are designed,
mm-hmm.
one, they can't be the same cartridges, because I do not want not all contents on cart, and I do not want a code in the box with the next system. I want that to be a thing of the past, hopefully, because even when SSDs are going down in price rapidly nowadays, I feel that they can use a different medium to have bigger games on their next system, but include in the box the adapter to put the old games in. So be it, I don't know, like when you use an SD card, but then you can fit in a micro SD card, kind of like that. I feel that would be the only way to make it cost effective to be backwards compatible, and then for third parties to basically milk their games and say, oh, here's the definitive edition, or we're releasing a performance patch and we're reprinting the games. Mm-hmm. So there's all these basically money streams that they could take advantage of. Features we can do without. They need to improve their store. So the fact that the store loads like you're on dial-up half the time needs help. I don't feel that themes are a big deal for me itself, so I don't think we'll ever need themes. Folders, now that we've got them, don't take them away again.
No kidding.
One thing I'm looking forward to is that they don't repeat past mistakes. If they added something to the Switch as a feature, you should not be taking it away with the next one unless you're changing the technology in some weird way.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, of what must be there must be support for rollback netcode. Because especially with Evo happening and all these fighting games getting a resurgence because they have rollback netcode, it's always for every system except for the internet virgin known as Nintendo, which still doesn't understand how things work. They need a party system, which they have, but they don't have it where you can talk very well. You have to use the app to talk. Come on, guys.
Even just if they integrated Discord the way Xbox and PlayStation has,
that would be fine.
That would be perfect. I would be okay with that as a workaround. You get to an online spot, you can send invites on it or something and be able to join games. They could integrate Discord very easily with that.
In terms of games I could love to see it launch with, for me, it depends on what big anniversaries are next year. Because now that they've done it at least once, it's not outlandish to think that Nintendo could release a Zelda All-Stars and give us Twilight Princess with an option for motion if they're using the Joy-Cons again, to give us crossbow training just because it's there, to give us Wind Waker, and to maybe even give us Ocarina of Time, the one that was on DS, since now they're telling us, we can take 3DS games and put them on Switch, like Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, so it's entirely possible to engineer these games to get rid of a screen. So I think, at least for when people are learning the new dev kits, especially Nintendo, because believe it or not, Nintendo seems to have to learn their own dev kits too when they were learning how to do HD for the first time. I think they can just delve into 3DS games being on the next Switch and kind of fill the blanks until they have a developed title like Tears of the Kingdom come out again.
And we're kind of getting a taste of that with like Luigi's Mansion 2, Dark Moon being ported over, and I would love to see some other titles from that or other DS games or 3DS games get brought over in that way. All right, Chris, what about you? Any thoughts on this one?
Well, the backward compatibility thing brings to mind the original DS and the pretty much every iteration of previous portable systems where they always had an extra cartridge slot for the previous iteration. So if they have a new Switch with new cartridges, maybe they just have a slot for the old ones. It worked for so long before. It wasn't perfect, of course. The latest DS could not play a lot of older games, but technology has changed.
Right.
Aside from everything else, I would still like it to be dockable and, have that perfect play at home or play away kind of thing, but fix the joysticks. Dear Lord, give us Wii Motion Plus, sensor bar or no, and just no drifting, or at least as little drifting as possible. The Switch is big enough where it's, not the most portable thing. I still miss the easy stuff it in your pocket flip thing of the DS.
Yeah.
But the Switch is a great console as it is, clearly, as everybody sees. The only thing aside from that, fix the joysticks, make sure it's backwards compatible with extra cartridge slot or no, and use My Nintendo to properly transfer everything we've already bought. Yes. I don't want to buy Super Mario Brothers 1 a 10th time.
So I will add to that, Kristen. They did say at their last investors meeting that they're doing a lot with Nintendo account to make sure that everything carries over, because they said, and I quote, digital purchases are very important and settings for the customer are very important. What that means, they were still cryptic, but
My
they still said
worry
they wanted the information to port over.
My worry about that is just for them to be able to carry over your Nintendo online account. So, like, yeah, they might have digital titles available, but your purchases might not. It could just be like, oh, well, you're still a Nintendo Online member, so you're going to get this stuff on here, just to carry that over. That's my cryptic, concerned version of it.
But for
Hopefully,
me, it
Nintendo's
makes
not
me think
that
that
stupid.
they're saying basically all the cloud saves will carry over, which then that means it would be backwards compatible.
To a point, yeah, depending how they do it.
That would be nice.
So they could do backwards compatibility with a different cartridge if they wanted to expand the memory, but not have to change the port. They've done that multiple times prior. I know the DS had the two ports because they were physically different, but like Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance all use variations on the same port and could be read from that. DS could be read in 3DS off the same insert port because the 3DS cards had the better internal memory and they had a little bit physically different design, which told the system, hey, this is the type of game that's in here. Here's how you run. If they do that, I don't think we're going to see any enhancements to Switch games, which I'm actually okay with. I would like to have it where they run better on this new hardware, but I also know Nintendo is that's a lot of stuff for them to do. They might not put that much effort into it. But if it'll do like, the GameCube on the Wii, where it at least could just play the games, that's something. I would like to not lose my entire giant library. I sent you guys a picture of it. To my right, you guys can't see right now, but there's like 390 or whatever games right there that I really don't want to just not play on new hardware. So if they make the port accept the older cartridges while being compatible with whatever new expandable memory that they have, would be great. If they do have to do separate ports, I think they'll do that at least for the early models as a bridge. And then later, if they do another version of that Super Switch or whatever, they might remove it just like the, what was it? The DSi gained some power, but lost the Game Boy Advance slot. It might just be one of those things where they just lose it over time. But backwards compatibility, I think we can all agree, needs to be there. Sony, it was not as big a deal when they went from the PS3 to the PS4 because the PS3, while eventually a success for them, was a low point. So they didn't have as much of a market that kind of grew so they could make a clean break and go to PS4. They could not do that going to PS5. They would have been burned at the stake if they just tried to throw all that away. So they kept one generation of backwards compatibility, which is great. Xbox had the 360, and then on that high horse, originally didn't have the Xbox One be backwards compatible. Screwed themselves over with their statements that Sony really took advantage of in what has to still be a banner way of screwing over your competition with a very simple video. Here's how you share. Oh, that was glorious. Even I was just like, yeah, you know what? That was a good win. But they had to go back and add backwards compatibility, and they've really pushed for that. And then with Xbox One to Series X, they've expanded it even further. Nintendo had the Wii U. That was obviously a clean break when it went to the Switch because while they could have worked something out for digital titles, they weren't moving on with that. So they just made a clean break like they needed to. They've built up the Switch to be, as we've already said on this show, to be one of the already top 3 most successful consoles of all time. They can't just throw that away, or else that is really going to be a nail in the coffin for that thing immediately. The flip side, people will try and argue like it was with the Wii to the Wii U, that if it's compatible, people will just think it's the same thing again and not buy it. So they're going to have to get their marketing right.
And the name.
And the name is going to have to be different. Or, Super Switch would be fun. People may not get the same meaning of that like we did when we were younger. We knew a Nintendo was different from a Super Nintendo, but this is a different time. So yeah, I'm very curious what that name's going to be. Features we can do without, like it was fun, but we don't need that infrared camera anymore. Let's just get rid of that so we can change it a little bit.
I agree with Chris with the Motion Plus side. Get rid of make it that technology instead of what's in the Joy-Cons.
Motion Plus could be good, but that's got to be a little different when you're not there, because that gets rid of the tabletop unless they build those sensors into it. Like there's good and bad to that depending on how it works. What they need to have is the controllers need to maintain backwards compatibility. I know the Joy-Cons have had problems with the sticks. They've gotten a little better for some of it. Things have worked on it, but people have a library of those. But if they have those available to still be small controllers you can share with people, because as much as people laughed about it, I've used that feature more than I care to admit. Just hanging out with people somewhere going like, hey, you want to play a fighting game or whatever? Here's a controller, hand them a Joy-Con, and we're messing with, playing around on it. Give us new controllers that answer the stick issue. You can do better motion, which a lot of that just comes down to coding. It's been pretty good for me if I could just recenter easily with a button press. It's been a lot easier. Give us a new controller while maintaining the capability of using what we already had. That can be a double-edged sword of the confusion for marketing, but it also helps those of us that have bought a lot of stuff,
Yeah, my TV has my remote has a pointer on screen. No sensor bar.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably does have some kind of sensor on that underneath, but I'd have to see how that one usually works.
They threw a bunch of stuff into the Joy-Con that was never really used, like that. A lot of the stuff they used for 1-2 switch, like that shake the ice cube sound thing.
I do not want HD Rumble to go away, because I'm still, people don't realize it, but that's still used a lot, and it's a fun way.
Oh,
like I'm playing Pikmin, and it's funny every time all the Pikmin jump onto your Orochi, the little dog. You feel the little jumping on there, the little as they're jumping onto the thing. When you got 100 Pikmin jumping on there, it's kind of funny feeling them all jump on it.
I do also like the fact that you can use the HD Rumble to locate your controllers if you don't know where you put them.
Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are getting more out of that than me. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I do not like the intensity on some of the games that it's shoehorned in there and all it does is make a buzzing noise from your controller.
Agreed. Like some games are they just kind of do a quick and dirty, make it a rumble and move on with it. Some of them are very subtle. My biggest and the one thing that really got me, other than the Ice Cube thing, which I thought was actually really cool and kind of a fun party game thing. But when I was doing lock picking in Skyrim, I was sitting there, you could turn the controller and you feel the tumblers ticking away until you feel the ching when you find the lock piece. And even with an early level lock pick, I could sit there and do expert level locks.
Oh, wow.
Just by carefully doing that. And I was like, this is so cool. It doesn't have to be for everything, but it can be creative. Like, it would be a fun thing to do. Like, remember Metroid Prime 3? You could use the motion to kind of put it in there and do the locks, but like you could feel the mechanisms in the lock as you're moving around if they did that. That would be kind of a fun thing. And the problem people have is it's subtle in the way it should be. It's when it's used, but a lot of people don't realize it because it just blends in with what they're doing, and they don't even realize it's going on. It's just like really good sound design. You're not paying attention to it. It just makes everything kind of fall into place. So you don't think about it because it's doing its job, but it makes it more realistic.
I stand corrected.
And not every game does it. Steven's absolutely right. Some of them are just lazy about it, going like, hey, go rumble.
I would like to add on to mine a little bit, though, that because I just thought of it, is it's one thing they went back on after having it in their other systems, is bring back analog buttons.
Oh, yeah. Well, the analog triggers?
Yeah, analog triggers especially, but even the buttons themselves, like at one point or another, like for Xbox, they're all analog, but they're even more so on the triggers. So if you're accelerating and you press it, you go faster and faster.
The only system that really did that was the PlayStation 2, and even they dropped that. Because the face buttons, most people never used it. You would just press a button and expect it to work. The triggers, I agree. They should be in there. And that kind of goes along with the Joy-Cons that are more expanded that they could do for the ones that come with it. Make them a little bit more durable. It might increase the size depending on how they want to do the portability, which I don't think they should be afraid of making it a little bit bigger. If you want to have Joy-Cons for smaller portability, you can do that. But people are getting around with a Steam Deck, which is a good bit bigger than a Switch. Like screen size is exactly the same, but the controllers on the side feel like full Xbox controllers on each end. Like it's pretty big.
It is a little chunkier though, a little heavier.
It is. It's a big boy, but it feels good, like surprisingly good.
Yeah, like Switch has the advantage right now where so many controllers that aren't even Nintendo work for it. Through a cord or so whatnot, small. You can have almost any controller work on that on a Switch, and which I think is remarkable in itself.
But one thing they need to do, these Joy-Cons right here are the ones I rebuilt. These are Hall Effect sensor sticks. And I've been using them for a couple weeks now, and they've been holding up great. They were a little bit tighter than the standard ones, but they don't have the issue with drifting nearly as much because there's not a physical connection in there. It's all magnetic. So I'm hoping these will work more, and I'm changing out a set right after the show for Jennifer to use so she can test it. This is what Nintendo needs to do if they want to keep the Joy-Cons, is change the sticks to Hall Effect sensors. That's the one thing I think they have to do if they're going to maintain this small size. Otherwise, they need to make these easier to work on, just like Microsoft's given the options for repairability. These, thankfully, are not super difficult. You can fix them without being ridiculous. But not everybody knows how to do that easily.
It's definitely going to be interesting because this is going to be the first system that I would say more of a business person is dealing with as of the president instead of Iwata this time. Iwata has nothing to do with the successor to Switch now.
My only hope is the most business one they ever had was Yamauchi, and they got the Super Nintendo. If they can pull that off, we're hopeful a business guy can do a good thing.
And that's why I think compatibility will be a converter, because Game Boy Player and Super Game Boy.
Yeah. I think nowadays they could make a port that fits for both, but I do see what you're getting at for that as well. I don't think they want to make it an extra piece a kid could lose.
But if they want to make it that they're going LCD, that means they might already be doing what else can we do to save on costs, and if it's to just include a plastic adapter instead of another port, so be it.
It would still have to have if they're already reading from that, they would just adapt the new cartridges to use the same pinout. Because you can have it read from the same place and just change the memory in the inside for a lot of that.
And they can't be stingy with those size of their cartridges either.
Yeah, that also, and they've got larger ones, but it comes down to publishers that don't want to pay for them, or they don't want to use those. So that's kind of an issue of publishers being as cheap as they can be. You know, Witcher 3 had the entire game on the cartridge. They showed it could be done. Then you've got like Capcom that wants to put one game and then cheap out the rest of it. At what point is that Nintendo's fault? And what point is that Capcom's fault? Or the publishers? If the option is there and they just choose not to do it because they can save a little bit more, going with that disc.
I think it's Nintendo's fault because it reminds me of the Vita and their memory cards.
Oh, those are a pain.
Proprietary formats hurt systems.
Well, yeah, for the actual cartridges and the games themselves, I'm not sure. That's usually for expandable memory, but almost every system has had some form of proprietary media. I know we've got Blu-ray and stuff like that, but even they find ways to make those specific to theirs.
The Vita was one of the worst, though.
It was. And I still think that memory card cost is what killed that system.
So it'll be interesting, especially if it's slated for next year, because as past years have told us, we're probably due for another Direct in September.
Well, we got a Pokemon Direct coming this week also. Yep. So we'll see. So that's kind of the stuff I want, on there or without it. Just for fun type stuff. Yeah, I was going to kind of go with the analog triggers because I love those for racing games. But a few games to launch with, for the love of God, give us something with Metroid Prime 4. If it's been this long and nothing's been shown, it has to be a launch title, or you guys just quit making it. You're like, oh, Dread worked out. We're good. And hopefully they'll forget about it. Oh, they're treating this like Mother 3? Oh, shit.
I
They're
wouldn't
never going to
mind.
stop talking.
I wouldn't mind a Dread 2 or a Fusion Treatment by Mercury Steam. That would be cool too.
I wouldn't mind Metroid Prime, or not Metroid Prime, but Metroid 2 or Metroid Returns being brought over to the Switch properly. That was such a good game that's still stuck on 3DS that I think could transfer very well to the Switch.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I just like how petty we get. It's stuck on 3DS. Dang it!
As I go over to my multiple
Look at
3DSs
this
and all my
old
games,
system. It's stuck here.
I still play them.
Hey, well, like we said before, how many times do we buy the same game just because it's on a new system that we're playing right now?
Skyrim, so you can feel the lockpicking.
Oh boy. I didn't get it for fridge yet.
I don't want to talk about how many times I bought Skyrim.
There you go.
Wow. I need to look and see which one I bought more of, Super Mario Brothers or Skyrim. Probably Super Mario Brothers, because I even have that one its own portable system. Anyways, I think that's a good point to end the show for tonight. So we'll go around the chat here and let us know where you can be found on the internet for those of us listening or watching who'd like to find us. Chris, since yours is always the shortest answer, you go first.
You've already found me. You just didn't know it yet.
That doesn't count for the hide and seek game, but we've tried. Judge ruled no, but here he is. Steven, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me on X, reposting
Twitter.
Now that they've changed it to reposting.
We talk like real people here.
And then generally just posting on X at loading_time. Still getting used to the other social medias and deciding what I want to do there. But you can find me on Discord, especially if you want to see all the madness we deal with there, at .nintendo. That's what I got. Or Nintendo Dot. It's one of the two. Either it's me or it's not me. Just play the lottery like Mega Millions. Anyway. But yeah, and then other than that, you will not see me on Threads.
Oh, it's not that bad. All right. Well, I've been your host, Jeremy Powers. You can find me on Twitter, because I refuse to call it by the other name, at Zenspath. I won't call it the other name until they actually give us back the at Zenspath pod name, until I get my account back. Otherwise, they can just stuff it. You can find me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Zenspath.com. Or no, sorry, it's just Zenspath. I've got so many account names, it's hard to keep up with them all now. Instagram and Threads is at Zenspath.com. And then if you want to watch the video version of this, if you're listening to the audio, you can find it at youtube.com/Zenspath.com, .com without the period. And if you're watching this and want to hear the MP3 or audio version of it, you can find us on Apple Podcasts, no longer on Stitcher since Stitcher's going away. We're on Spotify, pretty much anywhere you get your stuff, or you can download it directly from zenspath.libsyn.com. And then like I said, we've been streaming a little bit more, trying to do some other recordings. I'm trying to do updates on the moving forward series of videos I was doing. Really looking forward to and hoping for the RetroTink 4K. Mike Chi will never hear this, but I really want one. Please. I love my RetroTink 5X, but I really want to record stuff in 4K. All right. Leave us likes. Follow the channel. Leave us reviews, like anything like that to help the show grow. A lot of the stuff gets sent out more if we get that. If you like the show at all, send it to other people. If you don't like the show, send it to other people. Hate views and hate listens are still views and listens. I'll accept it. So, all right. This has been episode 96 of the Zenspath 4-Button Podcast, and we're out. Peace.
I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time.
Oh no, brain.